Hello, Dushyanth. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm great, Roberto. Hope all well. So it's lovely to be talking to you after so long. Please
Thank
tell.
you. That's great. Thank you
Yeah,
for taking the time to talk to us.
thank you, thank
Um,
you.
so tell us something about yourself. I know a lot, but the rest of the team doesn't.
Sure. So hi guys, I'm Dushyanth here. I run CreaShakti. That's spelled CreaShakthi, which is basically a Chennai-based theater repertory. We focus on theater and education. We take children from the age of 5 up to the age of 18, and we take the craft of theater through to them uh, with performances, with curriculum and pedagogy that we have developed, which is specific to the Indian education system. And we have, over the last 8 years of our existence, grown into a team of 20, and are also in about 62 institutions, reaching out to children and teaching social skills and emotional and critical thinking through the craft of theater, and making them more empathetic and inclusive in their approach to people and life in general. So that's where we stand. And my background is I'm an accountant by qualification, but uh, theater kind of found me when I was in high school, and since then I have tried very hard to keep myself skilled as a theater artist from that moment. And I've worked very hard as a writer, director, actor, dramaturg, producer, mostly as a producer and writer. But uh, we are now at a time where all those things are just colliding into one big world of God knows where. But that's a little bit about myself. We're a team of 20, and we pride ourselves in the fact that we are India's biggest theater in education collective. We have extensive number of workshops that we do, regular curriculum classes that we do, after school programs that we do. We have publications now where we publish our own play scripts for children, so they learn about the world through the plays that we create, and they can read and make it accessible. And last but not the least, we also have an app that we're developing called Kriya Play, which deals with accessibility of the arts and performing arts, and digitizing and archiving performing arts to make it more accessible to every person, especially children from the age group of 5 to 18. So uh, we are using theater as a tool for social change for children, and basically cultivate an interest at the grassroots level for the craft, so they may embrace it. We're not trying to create more actors, we're not trying to create more writers, directors. We're trying to create better, wholesome individuals who will use the craft of theater to be more empathetic towards the world around them, whatever it is that they end up doing. And as a tool for engagement, entertainment, and empowerment. That's how we look at
Beautiful. Thank you, Dushyanth. So the activity covers a wide range of tools,
it. Yeah.
and um, in addition to the work that you do, the educational work that you do, CreaShakti is also a theater company that produces
Yeah.
plays.
Yes, of course.
Also, I know you produce videos because I've seen
Yes.
them. Can
Yeah.
you talk about the work that briefly the work that you have done also as a company, because then it would be nice to talk about the impact of this moment to all the work that the education work and also the work within the company, so that
See, as a repertory, we've been blessed with a very myriad of plays over the last 8 years. I think the kind of work that we've been doing has been quite cutting edge in the context of what Chennai has been seeing, or at least what India has been seeing. And it's a very tough mm, space to operate out of, in terms of India as a repertory, to make relevant content, because relevance is demographic driven. The problems of my state aren't necessarily the problems of the state neighboring to me, because I mean, I might not be able to address those problems through my craft as well, because we speak different languages and we're such a diverse nation. But considering that, the kind of work that we've done we try to make sure that it's pan-India in terms of relevance. And of course, as local as we might go, be it in content or form, we always have a global relevance in terms of outlook with the kind of work that we do. Some of the stuff that we've done a play called Bhopal, which touched upon the Bhopal gas tragedy in 1984. And we have done a play called Chakravyuha, which is a play that deals with from a folk story from the Mahabharata, a mythological story about Abhimanyu. It's about a young warrior, age 16, who's killed on the battlefield. But we juxtaposed that in the context of a young student not getting his right to learn or losing his right to education, which is what Abhimanyu also has, because his knowledge on the battlefield is half-baked when he's sent out by his elders to fight. And we kind of juxtapose it to the modern day outlook of education for all. Apart from that, one of our bigger plays is called Kirukanagaram Express, which is a Tamil English play directed by my colleague Karthik, which dealt with mental illnesses and bringing awareness to a fairly ignorant community in India to mental health and support. We, of course, pride ourselves in the fact that we have done Forum Theatre with your Attic Rep back in 2014, which dealt with skin color discrimination and racial profiling in India based on skin color and colorism involved in that is also goes on to discuss class and caste inequalities, I think, in the whole context of India. And our latest work was a play called Snapshots of a Fervid Sunrise, which was a play commissioned by Mahesh Dattani, a world-renowned playwright, who where we focused on the struggles of young protagonists called Kudiram Bost and Tiliadi Valiamai, one of whom was an immigrant. Tiliadi Valiamai was a slave traded from India to South Africa during the British Raj, and her struggle for freedom and her fight with being branded as Sammy, or which is a term that they used to degrade Indian slaves at that point in time, or with a different color, by the British in South Africa. So this is the kind of work that we focus on. We focus on content which deals with intrinsic class and caste issues, and basically to bust a lot of ignorance that would be doing the rounds in our society, but never in a condescending or in a manner which is talks down to our audience. I think it has to talk with your audience. So that's the kind of genesis with which we go about doing our plays. Most of our plays are now not specific to a certain space. It's not governed by the proscenium. It's not governed by a certain space. We create it so much so that we take it to any location. We have done it in playgrounds. We've done it in schools. We've done it by hospitals. We've done it everywhere. Wherever you feel you want to tell us a story to a captive audience, we're there for you. And we're also trying to make sure that the tough conversations are had with any age group. I don't think any conflict should be restricted to any particular age group. It's only the manner in which we communicate should be sensitive. Therefore, all the plays that we create, we make sure that it appeals to anybody from the age of 6 all the way up to 80. So that's the way in which we are trying to create theater over here, so that it's an inclusive platform that allows for different types of artists also. We are heavy on music in the form that we choose. We are very heavy on formations and dance, and a lot of, because we can't travel too much with set and properties, but we do try and of course make that also quite mobile and friendly for moving about from places as well. So we've tried to bring in all elements, and the myriad art forms that India provides us with in options of form are all brought into a very eclectic mix in terms of. We've even done a rock musical recently called Bemani, completely in Tamil, which was a huge anti-establishment play, which got me into a lot of trouble. But that play was more on the political system and the ability for politics and media to collide, which are two massive pillars of a democracy which are compromised in a country like India. So that was also a huge, huge cornerstone for us very recently. So that's the that's a bit about the kind of plays that we do. So you can sense a pattern emerging, yeah, in the whole.
Right, right. So this connection with the social territory, with the local communities, and the
Yeah,
richness of these activities
yeah,
have been impacted by the virus in South India and Chennai.
yeah.
Uh, so can you tell us a little bit what's happening there in reference to the coronavirus? Because we get information from the news, but we want to know from you that you are on the territory. So if you could, if you wouldn't mind, just sharing with us what is happening in Chennai and how the administration is responding to it, the people. That would
I think, it's. I'll have to put things in context before I answer that question. I think you have to understand that the political system in our country is that we are a nation of nations, right? In the sense, like Tamil Nadu's population alone might be the population of the United States, I think. I mean, if you look at it like that in the context, and the state right next to us, if you just take South India, it's perhaps the whole continent of Europe in terms of population. So it's a country of a huge population density. It's a mass number of people who are all forced to live in very small pockets. And so social distancing as a concept for the West is a very different concept in the East, especially in India, in the context of India. So I just want to put that in the context first there. And the second point is, as we are a nation of nations, we have a different political party in the center which is the equivalent of the federal government in the US, which is central government for us. And we have a state government here as well, which is another political party, who were political nemesis in the past, but found a way to come together uh, in the last 2 years when the state party lost a lot of support when they lost their leader to natural death 2 years ago. So in that context, I just wanted to put it in context, the political system, where we are and what exactly is happening. And considering we're on paper, at least a democracy, the thing is where we are looking at is in terms of the COVID response, well, I don't know what the response has done, but we have been on lockdown since March 22nd, March 24th, actually, which is ironically also CreaShakti's birthday. But since then now it's been a month. And the first lockdown was launched from March 24th all the way up to April 14th. But on March 24th, the numbers in India were 800. And today, a month later, the numbers are 21,500. And the numbers in Tamil Nadu on the day of the lockdown was 50. Today, it is 1,700. So in a certain way, there are days where we feel we are winning, and there are days where we feel we are absolutely losing it. But the days that we're losing, it seems to be a lot more than the days we're winning, going by the numbers. And that's just the basic numbers. Now, in terms of on-ground response, there seems to be action, but we are not really sure how much of that action is having an impact. We were one of the earlier countries in the East to effect a lockdown, which was polarizing by itself as a decision, in the sense that everybody were for it, but not many people were convinced that the government had all it took to do the amount of testing required between then and the end of the lockdown to make sure that the lockdown was a good exercise, or rather is a good exercise or a fruitful exercise. Now we're in a position where we have not done as much testing as we would have liked. But having said that, I think for a country that is not as cash rich, or is not as well-to-do a nation as India, the state government especially is doing phenomenal amount of work in terms of putting out the right kind of information. And to my surprise, actually, to be very honest, I was extremely surprised by the kind of reaction that they were giving, and the way in which they're putting out the bulletins, the kind of information they're putting out, and the kind of responsibility they're taking. I think that's more important. The responsibility they're taking, the onus that they're taking is phenomenal. The central government, well, they're taking strong stances. I can see a lot of strong decisions being taken, but there is a sense of distance between what this state, especially where Chennai and Tamil Nadu is, versus what the central government's actions are, because there has always been a bit of a discord, because they have been firmly a more north-centric state and been pandering to that, what the South Indians call a Hindi belt, because there is a clear divide between the Hindi speaking and the Tamil speaking Indians, which is unfortunate that it exists, but it is something that demarcates a kind of distance in which they operate. Tamil Nadu specifically was doing phenomenally well in terms of containing the virus, but we had some hiccups along the way in terms of responses. So that was the political response, and they're doing what they're doing. I don't want to say they're doing a good job, they're doing a bad job. We will not know what kind of a job they're doing. To be very honest, I know only as much as what you, because I'm also stuck only with the news. So I don't have any other means of finding out. But there are some scary stories that are coming out, which kind of amplify the already extremely polarized class and caste inequalities in India. Extreme inequalities are coming to the fore, and it's being amplified by the virus lockdown. That is for sure. The reaction and the ability to say the lockdown is a very, very strong and bold step in curtailing the virus, that kind of a statement to say that itself comes from a state of extreme privilege, because I am allowed to sit here in front of a laptop, talk to someone back in Texas with an air conditioner running in peak Chennai summer, which touches 40, 42 degrees Celsius. But the kind of impact it has had on the social economic lives of migrant workers who travel from state to state with no housing, no security, no kind of money in the bank, no so on, it was amazingly terrible. It was a huge impact on them. You saw terrible pictures sometimes coming out in the news in terms of them, crores of people, like millions of people, just trying to find ways to get buses back to their hometown, which is a good 2,000 kilometers. I'm not sure what the conversion miles is, but I'm sure you can figure that out. But it is quite far. I mean, it's the same distance as, say, Texas and New York, something like that. So and we've had cases of people making the long walks of 200, 300 miles all the way from North India all the way to the south, and people dying on the streets as they walk down or make their way up as well. They're walking literally in the highways, carrying their children on their backs and walking. This was the immediate first week of the shutdown. After that, I think the governments tried to, it was already too late. In the sense that it was obvious that the government had taken a decision not considering the impact on the poorest of poor, not considering that stay at home is something that refers to people with a home. And it just goes to show that, and social distancing and stay at home are two words of statements of absolute privilege in a country like India. You can't afford to use that language in India without realizing that people can't afford homes or can't afford to social distance. There are slums in Maharashtra where you have 3 people in 10 by 10, 30 people in 10 by 10 square feet huts. It's the largest slum dwelling in the entire of Asia. It's called Dharavi. On March 24th, the number of cases in Dharavi alone was 0. Today, last week, there was 1 case. And today, within 7 days, it's hit 250 cases. So it's a very, very, and it's not like they're doing anything wrong. They stayed at home. But their home is just 100 square feet with 30 other people. So these are all privileges that we have to, that I think the politicians and us as a community have forgotten that we had. and also forgotten about these people. These are the forgotten people of India. These are all people who we assumed will just make do with the situation. But now we realize the number of people, the millions of people who are actually living day to day. I don't even think, I mean, in America, I see news about how there's a portal for people to access unemployment. I think you can go on and say, you know, these are people who can't even buy food, let alone go onto a portal and say, hey, I'm unemployed. And, you know, so that's the kind of situations that is there. I see a lot of social welfare schemes being launched on a daily basis to make sure food security is paramount. Fortunately, I think it seems to be coming to a semblance of sanity right now in terms of food security. But a roof over their heads is still a long way off. There are a lot of these sports complexes, wedding halls, assembly halls, and all these other government spaces being converted into quarantine zones and to house the homeless and the migrant workers and all that. So I'm assuming, again, this is with the limited knowledge I have, having to be sitting inside a fairly luxurious home in South Chennai. I'm assuming it's being taken care of. But I know that the situation is very grave. It's not looking great. It's not looking very, very good for these forgotten people. And the lockdown is not doing any favors in terms of stopping the virus. And we'll have to start calling a spade a spade. This is apocalyptic. It doesn't feel like the world I was in 1 month ago. It was a very different world. And this is a very different world. I live in a completely different world from here. And especially over the last 3 days. The last 3 days, we've realized that there's no going back from this. There's absolutely no going getting back. And moving on from that, there have been some very shocking more bad news, if I were to give you, is the fact that there have been some very shocking incidents, especially in terms of the way in which we react to our dead. There was a doctor who died trying to protect the patients. He unfortunately got the virus, and he passed away 3 days ago in Chennai. And they were going to bury him in the cemetery, and his family and friends were going with him with police protection. But unfortunately, the community over there got news that there was a COVID-19 positive patient person who had passed away being buried in the cemetery near their home. And the entire lot of people, thousands of people came out, protested, beat up the family and friends of this deceased doctor who fought 30 days of his life to keep people alive. And it reached a point where his own friend had to lift his body and throw him into the area where they cordoned off to bury him, and he himself closed it and had to leave from there. And there are disturbing videos of of the kind of commotion that it created, and the police couldn't do anything. This was one very disturbing incident. The other incident was a couple of Hindu Hindu saints, 70-year-old saints in Maharashtra. They were trying to move from the Maharashtra state border onto their state of Gujarat border. I think they were just shifting between interstate. At the interstate border, there was very disturbing video of the 70-year-old men walking out with the police, literally clutching the police like, the police were a father or a mother, just holding and just shivering, to a frenzied mob just coming out together and just beating and battering him dead. And it was a matter of seconds. It's just a 15-20 second video. It's all up there. It's all up there on social media. It's being consumed by everybody. Very disturbing. And it's something that we're trying to repress and not talk about. But considering the world we live in and what discussion you told me this was about, it's important that the world knows that I don't know if this is coming on the news abroad. I know for a fact that they're flashing it on the news here every other day. But why I brought this in?
Would you mind send the links of these videos with me?
I will, of course. I'll send all these videos across.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry.
Yeah. So everything that I'm mentioning over here, I'll send the articles and the videos to you. Don't worry.
Thank you.
If you just make a list, I'll just send it across. It's all available. Unfortunately, it's all available, isn't it? I mean,
Yes.
and yeah. So, and the bigger question, what I mentioned over here is the third most biggest thing is, I think, as I mentioned earlier, the amplification of the caste and class inequalities is coming to the fore a lot more right now. Everybody's talking about layoffs in the corporate sector. Nobody's talking about the fact that people in sanitation, people in construction, laborers in all these other things, all these other industries with day-to-day wages. It's not a layoff. It's curtains. So nobody's talking about, I mean, every day is about what the stock market is going to be like. Nobody's talking about the fact that, our neighbors, China, are swooping in and buying companies that are distressed left, right, center. So I think there is a lot of things that are not being discussed and more importantly, not being discussed the right way. And a big part, I think, if you want to make a villain of the piece, of the entire piece, I think the biggest villain in this has been the media. I think the biggest antagonist has been the media. There have been very few responsible journalists out there. I understand it's hard for journalists as well, considering that they're going out there themselves when as an essential service. But very honestly, I think the way in which some media outlets have behaved have been absolutely atrocious. It's been polarizing. We had a huge outlay, about 20,000 cases in India. About 30 to 40%, I'm not too sure about the exact percentage, 30 to 40% of the cases go back to one event, to trace back to one source. And this source is, I think, defines the COVID-19 war of India. This one source is called the Tablighi Jamaat, which was in Delhi. It's a congregation of Muslim clerics, I think, a bunch of Muslim followers who come from various parts of the world and across the state, who congregated in this place called, in this area in Delhi. And there were about 6,000, 7,000 of them who come from Malaysia, Singapore, right from the north to the south. All of them came. The 6,000 of them were there. So happened that a few of them contracted the disease and went on. And it was a mistake on their part. On the 20th of March, or rather 14th of March, the Delhi government, where this congregation took place, in Delhi, in the capital of India, the Delhi government had already put a ban. We weren't in lockdown, but the Delhi government put a ban on mass gatherings of over 200 people. And this congregation happened despite that ban. And when they came together, a few of the international delegates to this congregation were already positive, COVID-19 positive. I think they're from Malaysia. I'm not too sure again. And once the congregation got over, which ironically got over a day before the lockdown, they made their way back to their own states, taking the virus with them. Now, see, I firmly use the word congregation and went back. But what's coming on the news is Muslims did it. Now, in a country like India, especially under the leadership of Narendra Modi, this is, you have heard words like virus jihad, corona jihad, basically equating the Tablighis to murder, terrorism. You are seeing a huge rise in Islamophobia, and you're seeing a lot of venom on social media, and the worst is yet to come in terms of how minority and oppressed races are going to be treated. It's not going to be easy. There is a lot of venom out there, and you have, and it goes both ways. And there's a lot of communal discord. There's a lot of this one. And it's just that it's ironic, isn't it? The three stories I told you: Hindu saints massacred in Maharashtra, Muslims being targeted because of what they did in that area, and a Christian doctor not allowed to be buried in that cemetery. I don't think this virus sees race, sees um, religion, sees anything. But as human beings, we chose to see it as well. Even in this time, and there are some, obviously some words being sent in by the political atmosphere saying we should not communalize the virus. We should not make this about Hindu versus Muslim. But it all seems to be just words. There's no serious action to change it. But how can you hold the political establishment responsible for something which is very clearly, innately something very ugly about us? It's just a very ugly feature about us humans. I'm done trying to blame the government for communal disharmony. I'm going to blame us as a race. I think it's pointless. I mean, there's just absolutely no explaining why there should be an uproar that somebody is being buried with dignity, or a saint of 70 years has to hold, the police. And the police watched him being killed. They couldn't do a thing. They were just walking aside, and you'll see the video. It's mind blowing. How it's like a movie, except it's become real. So, and the worst thing that's happened to me in this whole month is that my washing machine conked. So I mean that's the story of India, I guess. I mean, fair enough. Yeah, business is badly hit, but and there's no income coming in for artists. That's fine, but that's not the. It's not like as if you know. Uh, that's not the case for everyone else. Everyone else is facing the same kind of problems as well. So we're all in this together. I think the reactions and the media outcry and the way in which you have made this some kind. I think you should watch a lot of Indian media. It's like watching a apocalyptic film every single day. It's poison. It's just absolute poison. And these three instances I wanted to point out because I think the fact that in each one of these stories, one particular religion is a victim tells you the story that it's not about religion or about communal harmony. But despite the media playing all three of these stories in isolation, they weren't able to find the thread that they are victims. And the fact that they are not using the power of media to mitigate fear, but instigate fear, is the biggest, most tragic story coming out of COVID-19 for India. I think these are some of the stories, instances that kind of paint a picture of what's happening here. You have a bunch of uh, the northeast side of India, where 7 states are there. Where if you look at India, the diamond shape of India, the north, the south, the east, and the west, the northeast, where we have 7 beautiful states, and our northeastern brothers and sisters, in terms of look, they don't look as much as like how the traditional Indian would look. I mean, if there is at all a definition of what a traditional Indian is, they are more, in terms of appearance, look more Chinese, because their border is more towards Tibet and China. And these people, I can show, and these are people who migrate a lot into other states. Most of them look for better opportunities in other states. Extremely kind, extremely hardworking. Most of our private security officers, most of our beauticians, most of our beauty parlor, and are migrant workers from the Northeast. Uh, and these people, because it is a virus that originated from China, the kind of language the middle and upper class use to torment these people, these our brothers and sisters from there, just because of their look. They call them corona. They call them a virus coming. And I think the irony is that if you look at the spread of the virus across India, the least amount of virus is in the Northeast. So doesn't, even if there was a lot of virus over there, I don't think it justifies calling these people whatever it is that they call it. But it just goes to show the inherent ugly biases. And I think we are now, I'm convinced now that civilization is not a word that we should throw around for the human beings anymore inside India, at least, for sure. I don't think there's anything civilized in the way in which we're going about. And it's unfortunate. I've been trying my best to keep my hopes high and all that. And these are not things that we discuss on a daily basis with my mom, my dad, with colleagues or friends on a daily basis. We try and forget all these things. But I think we should stop forgetting. I think we should stop forgetting, stop pushing it to a side, and start talking about it, which is why I think what you're doing is very important, and what you're doing is extremely critical about it. It gives me no pleasure to paint this kind of a picture of what India is. I'm an extremely patriotic, extremely, I love my country, but it's only because I love my country that I have to notice what flaws uh, it it has and what kind of ways in which we reacted. So that's
So,
a little bit about, yeah.
Dushyanth, so thank you for sharing this with us. So, what does Dushyanth? We heard that Dushyanth, the human being, responding to what is happening in India.
Yeah.
What does the Dushyanth, the artist, the producer, the artistic director, how do you respond to what is happening through your art in this moment? And what's happening in your mind, your heart, artistically? And also, I'm talking when I meant also your the members of CreaShakti and your people.
See, just a little bit about how we are going about it. I think, I think as artists, we're an extremely emotional bunch of people. That's one. But we have to keep our emotions aside and notice and look into exactly what kind of art is relevant and who it is relevant to. I think that's very, very good. On the economic front, I think there's no two ways of putting this. There is economic bankruptcy when it comes to the arts across. There is no way that we are going to recover anytime soon. I don't see security for artists for the next 1 year. CreaShakti went bankrupt yesterday. In fact, I went bankrupt yesterday, and we're trying out various ways to raise money. Fortunately, because of my um, work of 8 years and the position I'm in, and with the family and support that I have, there is some way of salvaging something. I don't know what that something would be. I have no idea. And perhaps going into digital is the way to survive. But even if CreaShakti, which is fairly self-sustaining, is facing this kind of a havoc, I can only imagine what individual artists across the country are going through. Who don't Folk artists are worst hit. Um, the government has said that they will support folk artists, which is a welcome change, but I don't see that happening anytime soon because there's no infrastructure in place to make sure that the money reaches the right people immediately, considering that efforts are on to contain the virus at the moment. That's one. Number two, nobody's discussed when this would end and how we can get back into schools, because most of our work happens inside schools, and the grapevine tells us that most schools will open only in September, and schools generally open in June, but they're going to be pushed to September, which means there's going to be April, May, June, July, August, September of absolutely no income, no revenue for CreaShakti. And we mentioned 5 verticals at the start in terms of theater and education, which happens inside schools. So that's not a go. After school programs are not a go. Theater productions, absolutely no chance. Publications, there's no way I can get printed books across to children because most delivery operating apps and printers are closed. And the last but not the least, the only way out is my app, so which we are launching in another week or so. My duty right now is to convince live performing artists that this is the new normal, that you will have to shift your economics, thinking, artistic ego, keep all that aside, shift onto this, and let's reach out to people. That as a producer, that's my job. So that's what I've been doing over the last 15 days, convincing folk artists who hate being seen on screen, telling them that what they do is beautiful. Come, what you do with the drum, or what you do with the flute, or what you do with your singing, these are all things that are needed now more than ever. Come, let's shoot it on a phone, let's keep our ego aside and put it onto an app which is safe, secure for people to view, and perhaps even something that we can monetize, so that money can reach these artists. So that's the way in which my job is right now. So I'm pegging all my hopes on this one app. So that's where I'm at least inward looking towards Kriya, because Kriya also has a duty to the 20 artists it has to pay full time on a monthly basis. Yesterday, we took a decision, all 20 of us together, that we will forego our salaries for the next 3 months and live on our savings. It was perhaps the hardest conversation of my life. 18 small boxes in front of me in my laptop, sitting and telling them that everything that I stood for in terms of CreaShakti, the secure artist, which was an oxymoron by itself, is now being challenged. And to my great, I wouldn't say surprise, to my great, it was very humbling to see that all of them said, "We are with you." And I think that's the difference between working in a corporate sector or working as an artist, I guess. Even if you are getting a salary and then that salary stops, you will never stop being an artist. So I think that that's where I think we are at. And it's still fresh wounds, Roberto. I'll have to be honest. I don't know whether my ideas, however dramatic they might be, are going to work out, and what this new normal holds for us. We're hoping that we create this app, which is out here. It's right here. I mean, well, ultimately, Shakespeare, it's his birthday, right, today? I mean, birth anniversary. He said the world is a stage, and now this is our stage, right? Ultimately, this is what we live for. So you can read a play if you want to. This is one of our plays. So read a play.
Can I get the app? Can I?
Yeah, it'll be. Yeah, I'll send it across to you.
Can you?
Some of our. Yeah.
If you send me more information, I'll get it. I'll get the app. Absolutely, I would love to continue to see your work.
Yeah.
Even if in a different form. So that's what we're talking. The new normal in the app. Can you tell us more about the app? Now is kind of your lifeline. This app, right?
I would say it's the only way. I don't see any other way. At least for another 1 year, I don't see it coming back. I don't see us going to the theaters for another year. But such is life. Is that, I mean, you don't have to bring people to the theater. You can take the theater to them. Is a philosophy that I already told you Kriya believes in.
Right.
So which is the only way to take the theater to them? Well, you have your phones, you have your devices.
Right.
And we just have to, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but you will have to create content for the app, right?
Well, it so happened that we had already created about 15 plays and uploaded even before the lockdown happened. So we have already about 5 hours of content to keep kids engaged. It's an app just for children, though. It's only for 5 to 12-year-olds. But I guess they need it more than anyone else right now, don't they? So in the fact that they can read, listen to plays, audio, radio plays, as well as watch their favorite theater artists perform, is a great selling point for the app. The fact that you can read plays, listen, watch them. This one, you're even doing something called Junior Playwrights Club, which is sending them kits of playwriting material. So they write their own plays, and at the end of it, we kind of publish them as books on the app. So they become published playwrights. So, they engage on the app, telling their stories, and then they are picking up their phones, reading the stories that they have created for their friends to see, so on and so forth, and making it like that. And We're making online classes as well, so we're teaching them playwriting through the app, through video conferencing through the app. We're teaching them acting through the app. We're teaching them direction through the app. We're telling them, discussing lots of things through the app. So in a scheduled manner, we are keeping our theater and education wing also going. We have not yet monetized it because we didn't have the heart to charge money yet for it. But after a point, I guess we have to start monetizing it. But that will come. It's
So
a new world order. Yeah. So
in a way, the people that these young kids that will be um, working with the app will be creating some content itself. So that's going to be very
they,
interesting to see what they are going to
they have
find.
already created. We started it on March 24th as soon as the lockdown was done. Yesterday, we received 140 edited submissions of 10-minute plays each. So there's 1,400 minutes of performance material that 140 children have created from 3 cities, not just Chennai. So,
Oh, that's
uh,
wonderful.
so
So
yeah,
a lot of material that might be
yeah.
responding to what is happening right now in their own lives.
A lot of it is.
Yeah,
You've seen superheroes created that kill the virus. You've seen,
that's
you've
fantastic.
seen, you've seen some really very endearing stories, very very lovely stories coming out, and you just tend to see that it humbles you, right? In the sense like connecting to your basic roots of why we do what we do. Why we do what we do as artists is because we want to tell our story and want to have our voice heard by another person. Ultimately, that's what we do. This is why we do what we do. When you, I think, in the whole world order before, we forgot that somewhere as artists, we forgot that's the basic need with which we are going about doing everything that we do. And in a certain way, I think as an artist, I found a reason for believing in that one more time. And as I sit with my team, my fiance works with me, by the way.
Okay.
So she works with me in my company, and as we sit and talk to each other over the phone or on the app, we realize like we had forgotten all these things about why we do theater. And in a certain way, we're going back to the foundation and discussing uh, and rebuilding. And here we have an opportunity, if I may say, to rebuild the right way, so that we never lose focus in terms of what exactly we do and what exactly we're trying to achieve, which is to build citizens of tomorrow who are more empathetic, who are more inclusive, so that more of those stories which I told you about, the 3 stories, don't happen in the future. I think that's where the artist needs to find relevance. How do we avoid the traumas that we create out of a traumatic system? I think we need to build hope. And I think rather than building plays, we need to build people better. We need to build hope better. And I think that's what the goal of every artist in CreaShakti and, of course, in India or if not around the world should become. And build things that are relevant uh, for the human being. I think that's also something that is what we are looking to create. So, yeah, it's a lot of introspection which we are doing. It's also we have also had the time for introspection, so that's good. It's a very humbling process. We were flying high a month ago, never been bigger than where we ever were. You know, fist bumping our way to maybe another 10, 15 more schools, all with the assumption that schools will open in June. Now we don't even have schools. I mean, it's very humbling. It teaches you to keep your feet on the ground. Yeah. And with respect to what am I doing as an artist? Well, I've always tried different things, and the fact that I was in a collective with other artists who are in the same boat as me, it's kind of liberating, isn't it? I mean, hey, I'm done for, so are you. We can't go further down than this. What more to do than to just create? So what I did was, one of my illustrator buddies and I, we sat down and every day put up a comic which I wrote and she illustrated. It was the perception of the lockdown through the eyes of a street dog and a street cat called Pandey and Meenakshi. Pandi is a Tamil word which is actually a racial slur, which I wanted to kind of get back because it's actually embroiled in a lot of class discrimination. Invariably, a lower class Tamilian is called Pandi. Say, hey Pandi, come here. Like people who are considered lower class. Uh, I wanted to obviously a street dog or a mongrel or an Indie native dog, which is subject to a lot of torment and stone pelting and living on the streets. I wanted him to, be a very naively optimistic, annoyingly friendly dog, despite the kind of oppression that he's gone through. And Meenakshi is a realist. She's calls it as it is. Sees the world for all the things that are happening out there, and is not naive like Pandi. But I thought these two polarizing individuals, if they come together and they see what's happening out there, and give their opinion on it, and find friendship, find love, find hope, despite being so polarizingly opposite, it tells a story in terms of what we should aim for. You know, so we can be as different as uh, anyone can be, but still find a common ground for the greater good. And that's what I've created. It was a 21 days constantly we created it. Now we made it a book and we put it on the app. So
Oh,
that
wonderful.
is, yeah. So that's what we're doing. We saw a lot of people. Right, we got calls from Mumbai calling us and saying, "Hey, give it to us. We'll put that onto our newspaper." Oh, this Pandi is so cute. Pandi is so cute. That's what I wanted. Like you'll never hear the word Pandi and cute in the same sentence, right? So, so, it's like it was fantastic. I mean, and it gave me a lot of confidence. With all humility, it gave me a lot of confidence that artists are still very relevant, and what we do is still very relevant. Because there was a time there where I was wondering how the hell is a live art form obsessed company like CreaShakti going to survive in a world that needs you to stay away from each other. And we thrive on socially not distancing ourselves. That's how we live. That's what we live for. And suddenly you take that away from us, it's going to be very difficult. So those comics gave me personally a huge uh, upliftment in terms of realizing that there are people out there who still need to hear our stories and need to hear the right stories. So that's what I'm making my goal for the next 2 months. And for artists, it's very short term. We'll have to think short term now. Keep short term goals. Keep those milestones. You want to put a play out there on video, just do that. And then the next one, then the next one, then the next one. Build slowly, 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 and then get out there. It's slow, it's tough, it's hard, it's tiring, it's emotionally draining, uh, personally and professionally. But I think we'll be up for it. And uh, we have to. I think the world needs it, and especially our world needs it, and we need it if we have to remain relevant.
Well, Dushyanth, thank you very much for the time that you have taken to share with us your story and the work that
Thank
you're
you.
doing. I'm going to put this on Google Drive, and you just gave me an idea because I usually share with the artist I'm talking to the video, and then only with my team. But maybe I'm now you give me this idea listening to you that probably I should share all the videos that I'm doing with all the artists so that to put you guys in contact, because the stories that I'm listening to from Brazil, from Denmark, from Italy, from America, Puerto Rico are very similar, but a lot of bit different. And in terms of these artists that need to create this new normal, recreate something, I think that maybe also is not anymore about the local moment. It is also the local moment, but as artists, the ability for us to communicate, because Zoom is giving us, and Zoom or whatever what is happening now has given more clout to this kind of communication, and its power, because it's not just meetings, but also it's conversations like this, in which we can inform each other. So if you don't mind, and I will also ask the other artists, if I can share your video also with the other artists, and you
Please,
see
I would
the
love that.
so to put everybody on the same drive with the team, so that maybe
Sure.
you want to know what this other artist is doing, because we are on the same boat and similar reactions with different ideas. And I think this could be, you know, I am learning so much from you guys. Has been fantastic and very humbling. So I would like to share this, or to give the opportunity for everybody to share. Is that okay with you?
Absolutely, 100%.
Fantastic. So I don't want to take more of your time, but please send me the information. I will send me the app. I know where I get it. And
are you on Apple or Android?
I am on Apple.
Oh, okay. Just give me 2 more days. I'll send it across.
All right. Yeah. And please, can you keep us updated and posted? And you know, I'm here whenever you would like to have a conversation, talk, or you know, I'm here. I'm your friend. You know, so I'm here for you. Okay.
Thank you. Really appreciate it, Roberto. Really.
So, thank you very much, and I hope that you have a good conversation also with Jake. I don't know if you talked.
I did.
Yeah, good.
I did. Yeah, it was very fulfilling. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you to you, and we'll talk soon.
We will, and let's get out of this together as artists.